We're new to hot tenting. We have a lot of questions and we've been doing a lot of testing to kind of figure these questions out. If you have better answers than what we found, please let us know.
We are using the Nature Hike Massive 4-person hot tent. And inside, we have the Palmolive Oroquin Mini 3. We wanted to know how much water would get through the stove jack opening, and it rained most of the night last night. This is completely drenched. I can actually squeeze out water. And down below here, there's actually a puddle of water that's on the fire tarp.
How easy are these little stoves to light, and do they produce a whole bunch of smoke when you first start them? There's kind of a trick that I've learned. If you start the fire all the way in the back, it'll at least get that smoke rolling up the chimney and then start the draft process. Specifically on this stove, it has vents on the top here. So you're gonna wanna make sure that these are closed. Otherwise there's no draft to suck the air in, so the smoke will actually come out. The key to making it light easily is a good fire starter, and I've found these actually work pretty well. Bend them back and forth, and then they come apart, and this stuff lights instantaneously. Whether you have sticks, twigs, whatever, these cedar chunks burn super fast to make like a little bed, and that's where your little fire starter is gonna sit. Then the key is to stick your fire starter, light it, stick it all the way in the back as far as you can. Now all you gotta do is stick stuff and bridge those two long pieces that you have on either side. The nice thing about these stoves is there's no wind that gets in there, and there's no rain that gets in there, so you don't have to worry about that. The fire is just getting going right now, and you can see that there's not a whole lot of smoke in there. It actually burns pretty clean, but you can also see that there's not a bunch of smoke coming out of this thing. This stove actually is sealed up pretty well. That's kind of one of the reasons we got it. You can see the smoke rolling back towards the chimney. So once you get that draft, then you're clear to open up the other vents. You can see a little flame tornado going up the chimney.
Do you need gloves? Yes. This thing gets hot. You can see it glowing red right here after burning for a while.
They're actually really nice to have when you're setting up and taking down. Even though this stove is actually built pretty well, I've actually cut my finger on one of these already. You need gloves if an accident happens. Say for instance, a tree falls, hits the chimney, knocks it over. You need to be able to grab it temporarily, and you're not gonna be able to do that with your hands. You'll just get completely fried.
Does it smell in here? Well, you have a fireplace and you got a stack of wood. Of course it smells a little bit, but not nearly as much as I thought it was gonna be.
See here, our little stove fan is just starting to turn on, just getting warm enough. Do you need one of these, a little fan for blowing your hot air around your stove? Absolutely not. The tents are so small that the hot air it immediately fills up the space. I like gadgets, so we have one. We left these out overnight and they actually got completely soaked. So we're gonna see how quickly they can dry out. And this stove has a little side warming area. You wouldn't want to stick it right there because it's gonna get super hot and probably burn them.
How long does it take for this thing to start warming up before you feel comfortable? It's been a half an hour. We've only burned kindling and it's definitely starting to warm up in here. The thermostat is actually saying that the stove is 750 degrees Fahrenheit. And that's with the screen door open, and I'm actually just about ready to take my coat off.
There's a lot of different options when it comes to wood. Just your regular wood. You have these compressed logs. These actually work really well. Just make sure that there's no additives in it. You don't want to be burning anything that has extra material. Some of the fire starter ones or the long lasting ones will have wax and stuff built into it. Don't use those. And then we have these. These are compressed bricks. It says bare bricks burn hotter. But what I've found is both of these compressed and then these bricks actually seem to burn cooler than just regular wood. So we need to do some more testing with that. We're gonna be camping in places this winter that you can't cut down logs and trees in that area. And so we need to bring our own wood. These are super convenient because you can just go pick up a pack. We're going to throw this bare brick in here now that it's cooled down. So the temperature was up to 750, but now it's gotten all the way down to close to 600. We're gonna stick this big old log in here and it just barely fits in there. The temperature's dropped almost 200 degrees already. So we put that big bare brick in there. I'm also going to pull this out. How long does it last if you load this thing completely full of wood and will it burn until you need to reload it up? During this week we've been testing, I've been putting chunks about this long in there. And they've been burning an average about an hour. If I load it up with wood, about the same. This seems to burn a little faster. I usually have been cranking that down a little bit. When I load real wood in there, if everything's open and sucking a lot of air in, this chimney will start glowing immediately. It's been about 15 minutes since we put that big bear brick in there. I did notice that it went down to about 400 degrees from 700, so it's kind of slow to get going. But now it's cranked. It's almost off the chart for temperature. So we're gonna close the damper a bit and cool it down because we don't need it to be that hot, and we can have it burn just a bit longer. This is one of the smallest stoves they make, and this is a really big tent. It's been about an hour, and I'm officially ready to go down to my t-shirt. One big question Kelly had is she was very worried about, like, are we gonna burn all of our gear up? And you could. Let's just put that out there. You gotta be careful. But like this pot right here, it's warm to the touch, but I can totally pick it up. This is pretty warm. Do keep in mind there's a glass window on this side, and glass radiates heat a lot better. So if you have a stove that doesn't have glass, it won't get as hot on the sides. But this tent over here, it's completely cool, not even warm at all. Grass, ground over here, completely cold. Cold, cold. Even underneath it's cold. You definitely need to keep a little safety bubble around the stove itself, but you're not gonna have to worry about like your sleeping bag or your sleeping pad melting. One nice thing about this tent is it's got huge doors on either side. So we were burning up in here, and we just opened this one completely open, and that lets a lot of heat out. Now it's actually really nice and comfortable. If you're looking at getting a hot tent and wondering if you need to get a ground cloth if it doesn't come with one, I'd say yes. You don't always need to use it, but if you look down here with all the water and the dirt, we've just ended up with mud. So having a ground cloth, I think, is a good option. Is hot tenting family friendly? And I say yes, and I say no to that. And this is just my opinion. If you're gonna do a wood stove and you have really small children, I would be extremely careful, because this thing just gets molten hot and burns are forever. I have a burn in my arm that I got as a kid that is never gonna go away. And with burns being forever, this makes me a little nervous, but there are other options. This is a propane heater. It's a Mr. Buddy. There's a lot of different options out there. The nice thing about these is you can turn them off immediately and they get cooled fairly quickly, but you can also pick them up and move them out. So say like the kids are gonna come in the tent, you got it all nice and warmed up, you can turn it off, you can move it out, or you can put it in a safe location. It's been close to an hour, and that big bare brick all by itself, that's pretty much almost gone. The temperature, I noticed, has started to go down. So we are gonna throw some of these compressed logs in here. We did turn the damper down, and we did close all the vents down, so we're gonna open those back up a bit so we can get some of this new stuff back burning again. I think if you give yourself an hour per every time you load, that will be I think a pretty good estimate. What are the differences between like a 3-season tent and a 4-season tent? And one of the big things we've noticed right away is these snow skirts that go down on the edge. You can see here that the rain just pools up on it, and it kind of funnels it away from the tent. I really like that. Since your rainfly basically is going all the way down to the ground, is you're not getting a lot of breeze coming through here. On a 3-season tent, the rainfly doesn't go all the way to the ground usually, and so there's that kind of air channel under there. These don't have that. This one has external vents on each corner, but it's not getting it from down below. This right here is the main difference between 3-season, 4-season hot tent, is the stove jack. And when you're getting your stove and your chimney, you want to make sure that your chimney is going at least 2 feet above the top of the very roof of your tent. There's embers coming up. They have enough time to cool down before they burn a hole in the top of your tent. One thing you need to be aware of is carbon monoxide safety. We haven't seen any issues with it in all of our testing, and we haven't heard of anyone having any issues, but these carbon monoxide detectors are pretty cheap. They're pretty small. There's no reason you can't just throw one in your kit and then just have it, and that way you're just covered. This is a carbon dioxide detector, and this is a good to show just kind of overall how the quality of the air is. It reads about 400. That's kind of like normal air. It's usually between 600 and 1,000 when it's in the house. We've been in here, and as you can see, it's at 600. If I stick it up in the corner, when I had everything completely closed up, I saw it max out at around 1,000. That's also the same thing that I've seen it max out in the house at. The air quality seems to be pretty good in here. We do have all the vents open, so you want to make sure you have good airflow. One last thing on the detectors. Make sure you're looking at the carbon monoxide detector, not the carbon dioxide detector. This is the one that's going to save your life. It detects the odorless gas that can be fatal. This one just shows you air quality. It's been about 2 hours, and these gloves are leather gloves, and they are a little damp still, but they're almost dry. I do notice that these logs are getting really hot. I don't think they'd catch fire, but if you are drying wood out, you know, this is a good time to rotate new logs into place. After doing more testing today, honestly, we found that it doesn't make a difference whether you're burning real wood, these compressed logs, or those compressed bricks. They all get super hot, and you're gonna have plenty of heat in here. So what are our favorites? I think it's actually nice to have a good mixture. These don't give you that crackling sound, which these do. So these are not really easy to just throw in there because they're gonna fit every time. These won't. You're gonna have to cut them down. So having a nice mixture of both, I think is the way to go. Do you need a fireproof mat? And technically, no, you don't, especially if you're not using a ground cloth. But even without the ground cloth, what I've found is super nice, because if I'm trying to kneel down here and look inside here, I don't have to stick my knee right in the middle of the dirt mud pile. And if any sparks come out when you're putting wood in or anything, you just don't have to worry about burning anything. Another nice thing is it does give you a dry spot to stack up your wood.
If you're looking into doing some hot tent camping, hopefully you found this helpful. You can check out this video next, and you can find us at exploretrekadventure.com, and we'll see you next time.